Here's a scenario that happens to about 400 people every single weekend in America. Somebody invites you to a baseball game. You say yes immediately because it's free tickets and there's food, and only on the drive over does it occur to you that you have genuinely no idea what you're about to watch for the next 3 hours. You've seen baseball in the background of movies. You know there's a bat. You know somebody yells strike sometimes, and it's apparently good news for one team and bad news for the other, and you've never once figured out which. Maybe you tried to look it up the night before. Maybe you typed "baseball for beginners" into a search bar at 11 at night and got a wall of diagrams with arrows pointing at a diamond, words like "balk" and "sacrifice fly" thrown around like you're supposed to already know them, and you closed the tab and decided to just wing it and clap when everyone else claps. We've all been that person. This video is the one we wish existed for us back then. This video exists for that exact car ride. We've made 40-some videos on this channel about the deep, weird, specific corners of this sport, what it's like to be a bullpen catcher, what a balk actually is, why one position quietly destroys more knees than any other. We have never once made the video underneath all of those videos, the one that just tells you what's happening from zero, no assumptions, no jargon you're supposed to already know. So here it is. Every basic rule of baseball explained for someone who has never watched a single inning. By the end of this, you will understand more about the sport than most people who've been halfway paying attention to it for a decade. Let's start with the only question that actually matters. 1. The object of the game. Strip away everything else, and baseball is shockingly simple. Two teams take turns trying to score more runs than the other team. A run is scored when a player makes it all the way around a loop of 4 points on the field and steps on the last one, home plate, without getting stopped along the way. That's it. That's the whole game. Everything else you're about to learn, every rule, every position, every stat, exists only to answer one question. How hard is it to get one guy to run around that loop, and how hard is it to stop him? The team that scores more runs by the end of the game wins. There's no clock. There's no time limit on the game itself, even though, as you'll see in a few minutes, there's now a clock hiding inside almost every individual pitch. We'll get to that, and it's weirder than it sounds. For now, just know the game ends based on innings, not based on a buzzer. This is the single biggest adjustment for anyone coming from football or basketball. Baseball doesn't care how long it takes. It cares how many outs you've used up. Which brings us to outs, the second most important concept in this entire sport, and the one that explains almost every confusing rule you're going to run into later. 2. The field. Picture a diamond, because that's literally the shape. 4 corners, home plate, first base, second base, third base, arranged in a square that's tilted 45 degrees so it looks like a diamond from above. The batter starts at home plate. To score a run, he has to touch first, then second, then third, then make it back to home, in that exact order without skipping any of them. Inside that diamond is the infield, where most of the close, fast plays happen. Beyond it is the outfield, a big grassy area split into left field, center field, and right field, named for which side they sit on from the batter's perspective, not from yours watching on TV, which trips up exactly 100% of beginners at least once. There are also 2 long chalk lines running from home plate out past first and third base called the foul lines. Anything hit outside them doesn't count as live play, which we'll come back to in a minute because it's more important than it sounds. In the very middle of the infield is a small mound of dirt where the pitcher stands. That mound is raised on purpose, about 10 inches higher than the rest of the field, because pitching downhill, even slightly, makes the ball harder to hit. Nobody tells you that on broadcast. Now you know it. 3. 9 innings, 2 halves each. A baseball game is split into 9 innings. Each inning has 2 halves. The top, where one team bats and tries to score, and the bottom, where the other team gets its turn. The visiting team always bats first in the top of the inning, and the home team bats second in the bottom. Which is also why if the home team is already winning after 8.5 innings, they don't even play the bottom of the ninth. They've already won. No point finishing a game that's mathematically over. Each half inning ends the exact same way every single time, when the team that's batting collects 3 outs. Doesn't matter if it took 4 pitches or 44. 3 outs and the teams switch places. This is why baseball has no clock. The only thing limiting a team is outs, not time. And a team with a hot bat can, in theory, keep batting in one inning for 20 minutes if they keep not making outs. It almost never happens, but it can. 4. What even is an out? An out is just baseball's word for, you failed to advance the situation, please leave the field. There are several ways to get one, and once you know all of them, about 60% of the confusion of watching a live game just disappears. Strikeout. The batter swings and misses, or doesn't swing at a good pitch, 3 times in one at-bat. 3 strikes, you're out. Yes, that's where the phrase actually comes from. Flyout. The batter hits the ball in the air, and a defensive player catches it before it touches the ground. Doesn't matter if it travels 400 feet or 4 feet. Caught in the air before the bounce, you're out. Ground out. The batter hits the ball on the ground, a defender fields it and throws it to first base before the batter's foot touches the bag. This is the most common out in the entire sport, and it's a foot race every single time, even if it looks routine on TV. Tag out. A defender, holding the ball, physically touches a runner who isn't standing on a base at that moment. Simple as it sounds, this is the rule that creates almost every dramatic slide into the base moment you've ever seen in a highlight reel. There are a few rarer ways to get an out too, but those 4 cover the overwhelming majority of every single game you'll ever watch. Learn those 4 and you can follow a live broadcast without anyone next to you having to translate. 5. Balls and strikes, the part everyone fakes understanding of. Every at-bat is a small standoff between the pitcher and the batter, tracked by 2 counters, balls and strikes. A strike happens when the batter swings and misses, when he hits the ball foul, more on that in a second, or when the pitcher throws the ball through an invisible box over home plate called the strike zone, and the batter doesn't swing at all. 3 strikes, and he's out, as we just covered. A ball is the opposite. The pitcher throws the ball outside that strike zone, and the batter wisely doesn't swing at it. 4 balls in one at-bat, and the batter doesn't get out at all. He gets a free trip to first base, called a walk. A walk looks like nothing happening on screen. It's actually a pitcher losing an argument 4 separate times in a row about where the ball is allowed to go. And good hitters know this, which is why some of the most respected players in the sport are praised for working a count instead of just swinging at everything. Patience in this game is a genuine skill, not just an absence of action. Here's the one exception that breaks everyone's brain the first time they hear it. A foul ball, a ball the batter hits that lands outside the lines of the field, counts as a strike, except it can never be the 3rd strike that gets you out. You can foul off pitch after pitch after pitch technically forever and never strike out from it. That single rule is the reason some at-bats go on for 12 pitches and feel like they'll never end. Now when it happens, you'll know exactly why, instead of just being mad about it. 6. Hits and the 4 flavors of I didn't get out. When a batter puts the ball in play and isn't immediately retired, the outcome gets ranked by how far around the bases he safely makes it before the play ends. A single gets him to first base. A double gets him to second. A triple, the rarest and most exciting of the bunch, usually a ball that finds a gap in the outfield and a guy with enough speed to gamble, gets him all the way to third. And a home run, the one everybody already knows, means the ball either clears the outfield wall in the air, or the batter circles all 4 bases before the defense can get him out, and he scores automatically, no matter how many runners are already on base ahead of him. This is also where runs batted in, or RBIs, come from. Basically, baseball's way of crediting you for driving other runners home, whether you hit a home run yourself or just poked a single that happened to push a guy on third across the plate. A batter can get an RBI without even getting a hit, just by hitting the ball deep enough for a runner on third to tag up and score. We'll leave tagging up for the highlight reel. It's a real rule, it's just not in the basic 4 you need today. 7. The clock you didn't know baseball had now. Quick myth bust, because this trips up even people who used to watch this sport years ago and stopped. Modern baseball does have a clock now, just not the kind that ends the game. Since 2023, pitchers have to start their throwing motion within 15 seconds when the bases are empty, 18 seconds when there's a runner on, or the batter automatically gets a ball added to his count for free. Batters, on the other side of that deal, have to be in the box and looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds left, or they eat an automatic strike. There's also a 30-second timer between batters entirely. None of this changes the rule we opened with. The game still ends on outs, not time, but it does mean nobody's allowed to stand around adjusting their batting gloves for 40 seconds between pitches anymore. The league added this specifically because games used to creep past 3.5 hours, and a sport with no clock had quietly become a sport with no urgency either. Now you'll notice broadcasts cut a lot tighter and pitchers visibly checking a giant countdown clock like a microwave that's judging them. That's not an accident. That's the rule working exactly as designed. 8. Extra innings, in case you're still there at hour 4. If the score's tied after 9 full innings, the game doesn't end. It just keeps going, one extra inning at a time until somebody's actually ahead when an inning closes. To keep these from spiraling into the 6-hour marathons they used to be, MLB now starts every half inning past the 9th with a runner already standing on second base, free of charge, no hit required. Fans call him the ghost runner, and his entire purpose is to make scoring easier and games shorter, because a runner already in scoring position with nobody out tends to score fast. It's controversial among purists for exactly that reason. It can feel like the league handing you a shortcut to the ending. But if you're watching live and it's already been 3 hours, you'll be grateful somebody's trying to wrap things up. 9. A small cheat sheet for what the broadcast is actually saying. A handful of phrases will follow you through every single broadcast, and decoding them in advance saves you from nodding blankly through commentary. Full count means the batter has 3 balls and 2 strikes, 1 pitch away, either way, from something happening. A can of corn is old-timey slang for an easy, routine fly ball, the kind that requires 0 drama to catch. Dialed in just means a pitcher's locating his pitches well. A rally is a string of good at-bats stacking up runs in one inning, and you'll know it's happening because the crowd noise will tell you before the scoreboard does. None of this is required knowledge. All of it makes the broadcast feel like a conversation instead of a foreign language. 10. The 9 positions in 30 seconds. 9 players take the field on defense at once, and each one has a job. The pitcher throws the ball to start every play, and he's the only defender who touches the ball on literally every single pitch of the game, which is why his arm gets babied like nothing else in sports. The catcher crouches behind home plate, catching what the batter doesn't hit, calling the pitch in the first place, and absorbing a level of physical punishment over a season that quietly shortens more careers than any other spot on the field. First base, second base, third base, and shortstop cover the infield, fielding ground balls and covering their bases for force plays and tags. Third base, specifically, sits close enough to home plate that he sometimes has less than a second to react to a hard-hit ball, earning it the nickname the hot corner for good reason. Shortstop, meanwhile, has the most ground to cover of any infielder and usually ends up being the best pure athlete on the dirt. Left field, center field, and right field cover the grass, chasing down anything hit in the air or on the ground past the infield. Center field, almost always, is the fastest of the 3 because he's got the most ground to cover, and the other 2 trust him to bail them out on anything in between. Left and right field, contrary to what the easiest spot on the field jokes might suggest, have to throw the ball the farthest of any outfield position when a runner's trying to score from second. Geometry the highlight reels rarely bother explaining. That's it. 9 jobs, 9 players. And once you can name all 9, you'll start noticing the actual chess match underneath every single pitch. Defenders shifting 2 steps left or right depending on who's hitting, because nothing in this sport happens by accident, even when it looks like 9 guys just standing around. 11. Base running without the advanced stuff. Once a batter reaches base safely, he becomes a runner, and his only job now is to advance. First to second, second to third, third to home, either by running on a hit or by stealing a base, which just means sprinting to the next base while the pitcher is mid-delivery, betting that the catcher can't throw him out in time. It's a real risk. Get caught, and that's an out, the exact same as a strikeout. Runners also have to tag up on certain fly balls, meaning they have to wait, foot on the base, until the ball is actually caught before they can take off for the next base. Otherwise, the defense can throw to that base and get them out for leaving early. This single rule is the reason you sometimes see a runner sprint for home the instant a deep fly ball is caught, and other times see him just stand there looking nervous. He's doing math you can't see. Is this ball deep enough to risk it? 12. The strike zone and the designated hitter, 2 things that confuse even casual fans. The strike zone isn't a fixed box painted on the ground. It's an invisible zone that runs roughly from a batter's knees to the midpoint of his chest, and it changes slightly for every batter depending on how tall they are and how they're standing. The umpire, crouched behind the catcher, is the one judging, pitch by pitch, whether the ball passed through that zone, which is also why you'll occasionally see a pitcher absolutely lose his mind over a call that looked, on TV, completely obvious in either direction. Camera angles lie. The umpire's eyes mostly don't. And these days, both teams even get a limited number of challenges to ask for an automated review of a close call, so the human eye isn't always the final word anymore either. The designated hitter, or DH, is a player who bats in place of the pitcher and never plays defense. Pitchers, as a rule, are not good hitters. It's simply not what they spend their careers practicing. So most levels of professional baseball let a team use a dedicated hitter instead of forcing the pitcher to embarrass himself at the plate. It's one of the most debated rules in the sport's history, mostly among people who already understood everything else in this video, so don't worry about the debate. Just know the position exists and why. 13. The handful of stats you actually need. You don't need 40 advanced statistics to follow a broadcast. You need about 4. Batting average tells you how often a player gets a hit. A 300 average means 3 hits in every 10 at-bats, and it's considered genuinely excellent, which tells you something important right away. This sport rewards you for failing 7 times out of 10, which is either deeply comforting or deeply terrifying, depending on your day. Home runs and RBIs are exactly what they sound like by now. And ERA, or earned run average, measures how many runs a pitcher would be expected to allow over 9 full innings. The lower the number, the better the pitcher, with anything under 4 generally considered solid at the highest level. That's genuinely enough. Everything else, OPS, WAR, exit velocity, launch angle, is for the version of you that watches this video, gets hooked, and comes back to this channel in 6 months wanting the deep cuts. We'll be here, waiting, with several dozen more videos about catchers' shoulders and Zamboni drivers. 14. Why it feels slow and why that's accidentally the point. Here's the thing nobody tells beginners, and it's the actual reason this sport has lasted longer than almost anything else in American life. Baseball isn't slow because nothing's happening. It's slow because everything that's happening is happening between the pitches, not during them. The defense is shifting based on the hitter's tendencies. The runner on first is reading the pitcher's shoulders for any sign he's about to throw over. The catcher and pitcher are silently negotiating what pitch comes next, and the hitter is trying to guess the answer before it's thrown. None of that shows up on a highlight reel. Because none of it is loud. It's the whole sport, just whispering instead of shouting. 3 things everyone gets wrong on their first game. Quick myth clearing before we move on, because these 3 trip up almost every beginner in the first inning. First, a foul ball isn't a mistake or a wasted pitch. It's a completely normal, constant part of the game, and you'll see dozens of them a night. Second, when a batter gets hit by a pitch, he doesn't get mad, and he doesn't get out. He just gets awarded first base automatically, the same as a walk, and both teams treat it as a routine part of the sport, not a fight starter, most of the time. Third, and this one fools even casual fans, not every ball hit into the stands is a home run. If it lands in foul territory, even in the seats, it's just a foul ball. The wall has to be cleared in fair territory for it to count. Get these 3 sorted in your head now, and you'll spend 0 time confused about why the crowd reacted a certain way to something that, on first glance, looked traumatic. The invite resolved. So, that car ride to the game, the one where you said yes before you knew what you were agreeing to, now you walk in knowing what an inning is, what a strike actually means, why everyone stands up when there's a runner on third with 2 outs, and why a guy taking a walk to first base is, somehow, also a small victory. You know why the broadcast suddenly goes quiet on a full count, why a foul ball makes the whole section groan instead of cheer, and why the guy in left field isn't just standing there even when it looks like he is. You won't know everything. Nobody does, including some of the guys getting paid millions of dollars to play it. Ask any veteran about an obscure rule from the back of the rulebook and watch him guess just as hard as you would. But you'll know enough to stop nodding along politely and actually watch the game, which is the entire difference between sitting through baseball and getting hooked on it. Most people who end up loving this sport didn't fall for the home runs first. They fell for exactly the thing you just learned. The quiet math happening on every single pitch, whether or not the ball ever leaves the infield. If this helped, smash like and subscribe so the next beginner-friendly breakdown finds you first. And if today made baseball click even a little, go watch our last video on the weird MLB rules that secretly make perfect sense. Because now you've actually got the basics to enjoy it. See you next time.